Are you ready to go to a super secret underground kumite in Hong Kong? If you are, let's get into it right now. Hey, welcome back to my channel. And the film I am referencing is 1988's Bloodsport. I'm going to say up front, I absolutely love this film. This is a film I watched over and over again as a child or as a young man. It used to be on TV all the time. And even though I know how the movie ends, I would watch it every time. And as we know, in this movie, we have Jean-Claude Van Damme as Frank Dukes. Now, this movie was supposedly based on a true story, Frank Dukes' life, which Frank Duke was actually the fight coordinator on this film. And I won't get into it a lot, but he had told all these stories that he fought in this underground kumite in the Bahamas, and he worked for the CIA, and he was in the military, and it came out none of that shit was true, that it was all BS, but it makes for an interesting movie, though. Also in this film, we have Donald Glib as Ray Jackson. And Frank meets him when he goes to fight in this kumite. He's there as well from America. And Donald Glib, you'll remember if you're a fan of the movie Revenge of the Nerds, he played Ogre in that film. He's in this film. The great Forrest Whitaker's in this film. Very underused. Basically, he plays a government official. He's in the movie, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do other than chase Van Damme around Hong Kong a little bit. We also have, I'm gonna say this gentleman's last name wrong. I apologize. Roy Shao, I think that's how you say his name, and he plays Tanaka. He is the man who trains Frank Dukes, and that's why Frank Dukes goes to compete in this underground kumite in his honor. And this movie is directed by Newt Arnold, who mostly did second unit directing or director's assistants. He did some interesting films that way, but he only ever directed 3 films himself. This movie was also, one of the writers on this film was Sheldon Littich, and he's the gentleman who directed Lionheart, which I reviewed a few weeks ago. If you want to find out review, just scroll on down, you'll see it. And he also directed Van Damme in Double Impact in the 90s. And basically in this film is about Frank Dukes. We see him in the beginning of the film, and he's in the army, and he kind of deserts because he wants to go see his friend or his mentor, Tanaka. And he goes to see him, and Tanaka's not doing his health is failing him. And when he gets there, we have a 10-minute and 56-second flashback about when he first met Tanaka, and Tanaka training him through the years to become this terrific martial artist. And he trained him on everything he knows. And his health's failing him, and he promises him he's going to go fight in this kumite in his honor. Next thing we know, Van Damme's in Hong Kong. And this is very secretive, a very secretive thing. Nobody's talking anything. And there's this woman there from America who's trying to do a story on it, but nobody's giving her anything. And she's at the same hotel Van Damme's at. And this is where Van Damme meets Ray Jackson. And they kind of hit it off right away. They can become fast friends. And even though Ray Jackson's kind of like this big biker dude, pretty nice, decent human being, pretty nice guy, and they become friends really fast. All the meanwhile, Forrest Whitaker's character and other gentlemen from the government are after Van Damme to bring him back to the army. And their guide for this kumite takes them down this little alley, looks like it's almost kind of underground a little bit, to where the kumite is going to be fought in the walled-off city of Kowloon, which this film was one of the few films ever filmed there before its destruction. That was nice. That was an interesting bit of trivia. And then basically the rest of the movie is Van Damme fighting these different fighters. And we get to see a lot of fighting once it starts, of these different fighters fighting, Van Damme fighting, Ray Jackson fighting. And then we have the problem with the main villain of the piece, which is this one fighter who's this big dude who kicks everybody's ass. And Ray has to fight him. And Ray does a nice job, but then he ends up getting hurt by this guy. And he gets defeated, and he ends up in the hospital. And this is when Frank decides he's going to win it, and we have our final battle with him and this gentleman, and the guy cheats, but Frank ends up beating him in the end, and he wins the kumite. And it's all, the fight scenes are well choreographed, they're well shot, you can see what's going on. Of course there's slow-mo, it's the 80s, folks, and it's a martial arts film, there's going to be slow-mo. And Van Damme really handles himself well. He does that Patton and Van Damme split, I think he does it like 7 times in the film. And it's all fun and exciting, and you want to see Van Damme win because you like him. He's a likable character, even though, you know, it's supposed to be a true story. We know it's bullshit, but it's still an interesting story about this underground fight that happens every so often, and it's about honor and respect and it's very interesting, and I like this film. I think it's well directed. I think it's Van Damme's really well, does really well in the role. All the actors do well for what they have to work with, honestly. And it's a good film. It's a good, fun martial arts film. And this is what solidified Van Damme's career. It was a hit. When it was released, it made, from what I could find, between $50 and $65 million worldwide on a budget of $1 to $2 million. And this is what gave Van Damme a career until he was stuck in direct-to-video hell, unfortunately, the last 10 years or whatever it's been, besides the Expendables 2. Yeah, Van Damme's likable. Everybody does well. I would give Bloodsport an 8.5 out of 10. I like it that much. I think it's a really well done film. It's a film that I watched a lot as a kid. It was on TV constantly, and I always liked watching it. I bought the Blu-ray. It's on a double Blu-ray with Time Cop, which is also not a bad Van Damme film either. And I watched it last night for the first time. It's the first time I've seen it all the way through in a long time. And I watched it. I had fun with it and enjoyed it just as much as I did when I was younger. It's a really fun Van Damme movie. Yes, 8.5 out of 10 for Bloodsport. Have you ever seen Bloodsport? What are your thoughts on it? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. Have a nice day, and I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks. Bye.